What's going on, everyone? It's CardTrick73 back with another YouTube video. Today we are going to be playing a new game that I have enjoyed and I've been playing since I was decently a little kid. So this game is called Pocket Tanks. Basically, it's a 1v1 tank battling type game where you can fight online opponents or computers with different types of like, you could call them power-ups or whatever. You shoot from the tank to try and deal as much damage to the opponent in 10 volleys, as in 10 rounds. Where you shoot, then the opponent shoots 10 times, and whoever deals the most amount of damage wins that. So today I'm going to be showing you what every weapon in the basic pack of the game does, and I'll also kind of show you how it works. So basically, you have your moves where once you click it, you're able to move a tiny bit either to the left or to the right. Here you have your weapon selection. So this will basically depend on when you play the game. You won't have all these weapons. You'll pick from the different weapons, as I will show you in the CPU battle later on in this video. You have your fire button, which shoots. You have your angle, which you're able to increase and decrease the angle of your tank, and you can increase the power of your shots, stuff like that. So I'm going to start off with the most basic is going to be the single shot. So the single shot, obviously probably what it sounds like, is the most basic because it would be presumed it's just a single shot that you're able to shoot up in the air and try and hit your opponent with. I missed, but that's the single shot. Next we have the big shot. So the big shot is kind of like the single shot where it only shoots once, but when you shoot it, I completely missed and I couldn't show you. Sorry. The big shot, once you shoot it, like I said, like a single shot, but bigger radius, and it deals more damage. So I will just, for reference, we're just going to be firing away with this one because this one won't matter for the angles and whatever. We'll just keep this one. So we'll go back. So that was the big shot. Here's the single shot again. This time it's going to hit. Pretty simple. So next up we have the 3-shot. So the 3-shot, kind of like the single shot, except this time it shoots 3 bullets instead of just 1. So it'll shoot 3 bullets that spread out. Pretty self-explanatory there. Next up is the 5-shot, which, as it sounds like, shoots 5 instead of 1 or 3, like the other ones. So next up we have the jackhammer. So the jackhammer, once you fire it, it's a single shot. It's just a shot by itself, but it will bounce kind of like a jackhammer would, and it'll keep hitting your opponents. Like if you place it like that, it'll just keep hitting them, stuff like that. Next up we have the heat seeker. So the heat seeker, when you shoot it and it kind of gets near, it'll heat seek and shoot super fast, leave a little trail, and it will explode on impact on your opponent's tank. Next up, Tracer 10. So Tracer 10 is a really good one that you kind of want to try and get. Once you shoot it, it'll shoot 5 kind of shots in the air. They don't deal damage, but it'll show you if you need to increase or decrease your angle of attack on your opponent. Next up is the pile driver. So the pile driver, basically, once it hits your opponent, it'll kind of like put him into a giant hole, just like that. Next up, oh, sorry. Also, if you hit yourself in this game, you lose basically damage that you have gained. So the dirt mover kind of just moves dirt away from you. So say your opponent covers you with like a dirt ball, you are able to just move that dirt, get it out of the way, because if you have dirt and it basically covers the top part of your tank and you shoot, you'll deal damage to yourself and you'll lose your points. So the Crazy Ivan, most of these are single shots unless they say 2 shots, 3 shots, whatever. Crazy Ivan explodes above your opponent's tank, and it will into a bunch of little kind of shots, and they will, like, most of the time hit, just depending on your opponent and all that. So the spider once it gets near your opponent, it'll spread out in a bunch of also little shots. Just like that. The sniper rifle. So the sniper rifle, you wanna, when you shoot, you wanna kind of know, like, the exact location of your opponent, because when you hit, it will deal 100 damage, which is very good for you, obviously. So the magic wall, you don't want to place it on your opponent, but you want to place it kind of in front of your opponent. Because when you shoot it, it'll make a wall that's able to block your opponent. So when they shoot, it gets blocked by the wall. Next up is the Dirt Slinger. So the Dirt Slinger, like I was talking about, once it hits, it will create a slinger. The Dirt Slinger creates a triangle of dirt. When your opponent will shoot, see, when they're covered, it will deal damage to themselves. So next up is the Zapper. So the Zapper, when it gets close to your opponent, unlike that, but let me just show you. The Zapper, once you shoot it, it will zap your opponent. It doesn't have to hit them, and it just has to be close. Next up, Napalm. So Napalm, once you shoot, and it explodes on impact, but it'll spawn like napalm, which will burn your opponent for a couple of seconds and then disappear. Next up, which is going to be similar, is the Hailstorm, which the Hailstorm is kind of like the napalm, except it makes like hail, I guess, and it will like be like a watery effect where it kind of like will spill. Like if it hits here, it'll fall over kind of like a waterfall. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up is the Groundhog. So the Groundhog, the Worm, and the Homing Worm all are special because if you shoot them, they can basically, the Groundhog can dig underground, like straight to your opponent, which is really good. Now, the Worm, if you shoot it, it'll start to go up. Unlike the Groundhog goes straight. The Worm goes up. And then the Homing Worm, just like the Worm, doesn't really do anything that special. Next up, we have the Skipper. So, the Skipper, as the name explains, basically it will skip around for a little bit, and if it hits your opponent, it will explode, just like that. But let me show you. So say you miss your opponent and you're off by a couple degrees. The Skipper will basically just bounce around until it explodes on itself, or if it hits your opponent. If it doesn't, it'll just explode. So, pretty self-explanatory. Next up, we have the Chain Reaction. So the Chain Reaction, when on impact, it will make a bunch of tiny explosions, kind of in the vicinity of where it hit, just like so. So it's good because even if you're not exactly on your opponent, it most likely will still hit them if you are in the range of here or here, that close. Next up's the Pineapple. So the Pineapple, when it gets close to your opponent, it'll explode into a bunch of tiny shots that'll spread out everywhere. Next up's the Firecracker. So the Firecracker, kind of similar to the Chain Reaction, except it goes out to the sides and explodes to the left and right instead of in a bunch of big circles near it. Homing Missile. So this one is nice because even if your angle is completely off, so it looks like it's going to go out of the map, it will redirect and go straight onto them. Which is nice because even if you're low on damage and you don't know the exact spot, you can put power 100 and aim like you're going to shoot out of the map, and it will make contact. Next up's the Dirt Ball. So the Dirt Ball is kind of like the Dirt Slinger, except it's a ball instead of a triangle. It spawns a ball of dirt around your opponent. Simple enough. And there's the Dirt Mover in action. Next is the Tommy Gun. The Tommy Gun shoots a bunch of shots up into the air. Kind of not the exact spot, but around. And then they will all come raining down. Some of them will hit your opponents, some will not. Next up is the Mountain Mover. So the Mountain Mover, no matter where it hits, it's going to crate. It looks like a giant explosion. Doesn't do any damage, but it will remove all dirt, stuff like that from the area, which is nice. So, just show you if it hits like the mountain. I completely missed because I'm an idiot, but removes all the dirt, just like that. Okay, next up we have the next up is the scatter shot. So just like its name says, basically all the shots are gonna kind of scatter around. I was wrong. Scatter shot, let me see here. I messed up. That's right. So, if it hits the ground, all the shots will scatter up into the air. But if you place it exactly on your opponent like I did, they will all hit. Now, the cruiser, you want to try and land in front of your opponent, because, just like its name says, it will cruise along the ground until it hits your opponent. Just like that. So, just like its name says, it's a good card. So, Fireball. The Fireball is a fireball, obviously, but it will bounce around. If it directly hits your opponent, it deals 50 damage. But if it bounces around, it will deal damage around the vicinity of your opponent's tank. Just like so. It'll keep bouncing around until it hits them for 50. Otherwise, it will just explode, which is good. Next up, we have Flea Circus. So Flea Circus shoots a bunch of fleas into the air. And they will deal 5 damage to your opponent's tank every time, no matter if they hit or if they explode next to it. Some of these, depending on where you hit, the damage will differ. For example, like with the napalm and the hail, it'll depend on all that sort of stuff. But Flea Circus is guaranteed 5 damage, just like the sniper's guaranteed 100. So the Superstar will shoot just like that, but I will show you with the this other tank. So the Superstar, if you get it close to your opponent, it will spread out into 3 stars. But as long as it doesn't hit the ground or go out of the map, it will keep shooting and dealing 2 damage, just like that, to your opponent's tank. Next up, we have Drillers, which, just like its name, it shoots a bunch of drillers into the air. So they will dig like this into the ground and explode at the bottom, and then all the dirt will kind of, for the most part, they will just all like fall. And let me show you. Oops. Drillers, here we go. So just like with this tank, they're all gonna go drilling, and then your opponent's tank will start to go under the ground. Next is Gamma Blaster. So Gamma Blaster, you want to aim right at your opponent's tank, and it will shoot a bunch of little shots that also deal 2 damage per hit to your opponent's tank, which is good because it's guaranteed. All you have to do is aim it directly at it, and you will hit them for 2 damage every time. Next is Quantum Cube. So Quantum Cube, see, I didn't realize it was right there. But, Quantum Cube. Quantum Cube will basically shoot a cube into the air. And it will start to spawn, like, little yellow lines around. And then if they come in contact with your opponent's tank, they will deal 1 damage. And then on explosion, if it's next to it, it will explode your opponent's tank and deal a little bit of damage. Next is the Missile Turret. No matter where it lands, it will always target your opponent's tank, and will start to fire missiles at them constantly. So it will fire 21, I forgot the exact number, somewhere around there, 20 or 21 missiles at your opponent's tank, and then it will explode. So Ion Cannon will be better to show somewhere like here. But Ion Cannon basically shoots like kind of like a giant beam from the sky, and if it lands on your opponent, it will dig them down basically into the ground, which is good. Alright, next up we have the backtrack. So the backtrack, basically you fire and then your tank goes flying back. Most of the time it will land away from it. If you hit the border, you'll bounce, but most of the time it will land away from it. Next up we have oil slick. So oil slick, you fire a can of oil into the air first. That will kind of splatter around, spread oil. Then you fire a match, and then the match ignites the oil, and then it will burn your opponent's tank with fire, which is good. All of these powers, by the way, are in the basic pack. You can buy advanced ones. I will show you after, but you can buy them in advanced packs. All right, next up is puzzle box. So puzzle box will kind of spawn, looks like puzzle pieces around, and then they will all like get destroyed. They will also destroy ground around it wherever they spawn. So bouncy blocker spawns a blocker in front of your opponent's tank, so if they try and shoot the same spot, it'll bounce back and they will get damaged. Next up is evac. It's basically evacuation. You play it, and then you get spawned to a different location, which can be good if they have a direct target on you. I forgot it was single shot. Oh, and I hit. Okay, well, next up is sticker shock. So sticker shock, once you shoot it, once it gets near the ground, it will spawn a bunch of like little circles everywhere. Not like that. Oh, it's on single shot again. But it will basically spawn a bunch of little circles. Here. When it gets near the ground, that will all fall, and some of them will hit your opponent's tank, some of them won't. And then, like the name explains, they will shock your opponent's tank. Depending on how many you got on, that's how much damage it most of the time will do. Alright, and finally we have barbed wire. So barbed wire, when it hits the ground, it will bounce around for a little bit. Just like that. And then it will shock along the entire barbed wire trail. So those are all of the weapons in the basic pack that come when you install this game on Pocket Tanks. And now I will show you what a CPU battle is like. So you can click play, one player. Pick your color. I'm just going to go on 1 for this, but you can go all the way up to like 10 difficulty, stuff like that. Then, for when you play someone, you have what's called the weapon shop, which basically, when you play CPU, you will get to pick against it, but if you do an opponent, or if you play against an actual opponent, you basically will always get quick pick, which basically picks them off for you. So for example, I'll just show you real quick how it works. So if I pick one, then the opponent will pick one, and then it'll go back and forth. But if you click quick pick, it'll just give you both random power-ups kind of fast, so you don't have to spend all your time doing it. So, just like in the tutorial, first volley, there are 10 volleys that you try to deal as much damage as possible. So, we'll start off with a missile turret. Really bad angle by me. I don't even know if it'll hit. Which, that's part of this game, is you have to always adjust. And you don't really know, you kind of just gotta take a shot in the dark at the beginning of where your like the tank is, based on the angle, stuff like that. And sometimes CPUs will know exactly where to aim, so most of the time they will hit, like, every time. Alright, we will go with the puzzle box. See, still too short of an angle, but... the spider, I forgot to mention, if it doesn't sprawl, like I showed you in the beginning, where instead of going like this, it'll just create an explosion. Alright, we're gonna do the jackhammer. Hopefully this hits, because that'll be 50 damage if it does, because it's 10 damage each time most of the time. 10, 2. Well, if it's directly on it, it'll do 10, but... So, because I was this close, if I decrease the angle, it'll go back to about here, so I just have to decrease the power just a little bit. So Hailstorm has a water effect where it will keep running down a hill or cliff or whatever. I'll decrease the power, and we will go with a pile driver, which will put him into a hole, and then we can combo that with our other stuff that'll deal damage the more that's on him. Homing worm. So we can use the napalm, which napalm and hailstorm, the more that's on your opponent's tank, the more damage it will do. Just like that. So he's going to use Zapper. Completely missed. And we will do the Crazy Ivan. So, based on that, we're going to have to increase power just a tiny bit. So he has another Quantum Cube. We will do the Dirt Slinger. We'll put dirt around him, and then if he tries to shoot, it will damage himself. Unless he has a dirt mover or whatever. He was able to not damage. If he has stuff that go underground, most of the time they won't be able to damage themselves. So you have to decrease the angle. Like now it's going to damage himself. Still missed, that's fine. So he's, with all this dirt, he has to aim out of it, otherwise it will hit him. And just like that, that is the game. So that is basically the basic introduction to pocket tanks with all of the different weapons and stuff like that. In the, where's it called? The original pack. It comes with the original pack, super pack, quantum pack, and puzzle pack. All come free with the game. But the deluxe version, you can get over 100 different types of weapons, such as these. It is $4.99, and then you're also able to buy all these other apps, or all these others. Once you buy deluxe, you can buy all these other different weapons and stuff like that. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will be making, hopefully, be able to do some PvP streams with this game with viewers and just do PvP games, stuff like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this basic tutorial on how to play pocket tanks. Peace. This is Card Shark.